troubled waters in lives is because God has a vision for us. And He wants to take us somewhere. And it's not to sit by a stagnant pond called Mara, because it's not the best place in the world to be. God wants to take us to a place called Elim, where we can sit and where we can be replenished and where we can be revived. God wants so many good things for us, and we just don't see it. And then the third point I want to talk about, what we're talking about, number 2 still, is that God threw a tree into the troubled waters of life when Jesus Christ was lifted up on a Roman cross to die for all of mankind's sin. So it's no coincidence that we're talking about a prophet of God who threw a stick into the murky waters of that Jordan River to make an access swim. It's no coincidence that we're talking about the man of God, Moses, who threw that tree into that bitter, poisonous water and made it sweet again. And then now we're talking about the Son of God, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who came and God threw a tree into the middle of our lives and said, "You should die in hell, but I love you too much, and I want too many good things for you that you just don't even know yet." And so, before you even need to know the need to ask, before you even know what to ask, I've already provided it for you. And this will make the water sweet. This will make that axe head swim in the murkiest of water. This is what you need. God threw a tree in. And then number 3, for the sake of time, we're going to move forward. Troubled waters illustrate God's promises. Troubled waters illustrate God's promises. There was a ship that took Paul to Rome, and they encountered bad weather in the last part of Acts. An angel of the Lord stood by Paul and told him not to worry. Everyone would survive while they waited out the season of bad weather. On the island of Malta, God had a vision for some lost people at Malta. You see, that angel of the Lord stood next to Paul and said, you have to go to Rome because you need to speak there for me, for God, rather. And you need to speak there, and there's some lost people in Rome. There's some Christians that you need to encourage, first of all, and then there's some lost people that are going to get saved too. And so don't worry about this bad weather, Paul, because you're going to survive it. Because I have some better things in mind for you and for some people down the road. And so Paul even told the captain, said, "Hey, don't worry. Everyone's going to survive. There's some people on the ship that can't swim, so let's get some things overboard for them to grab onto. And there's that island over there that we're going to go to, and it's called Malta. It's just a couple of strokes away." And then what did God do? While they waited out the season of bad weather at Malta, many people on the island of Malta were saved. Malta had a revival. Malta had some people born again. Malta has some Christians there still today. Faith Bible Institute has a school in Malta. Isn't that amazing? 30,000 students around the globe, part of Faith Bible Institute, and some of them walked the same earth that Paul did. Whew. I'm sorry, that gets me going a little bit. That's pretty good. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, and we kind of read, when we read the account of Joseph, we kind of read it kind of fast. Genesis can be easy to read in some spots when it's a narrative, when it tells a story. And then some of it is kind of hard because it talks about genealogies, and that's really hard to wade through. Those are important. But when we get to those stories, wow, we can read those fast because that's what we've always read our entire life is stories. And so when we read the account of Joseph, we say, okay, he was sold into slavery, and then, then he went to Potiphar's house, and he was second in Potiphar's house. Then he went to jail, and of course he was there for a little while. And then he became second in Egypt. What we don't realize is that from the time that Joseph was sold into slavery for his brothers, until the time that he was raised up to the second most powerful man in the land of Egypt that controlled all of the food and all of the trade during those 7 years of famine, between this time and that, there were 13 years. Joseph endured 13 years of troubled water. He didn't complain. He didn't grumble. When he was in prison, he made it efficient, and he had a smile on his face. When he was accused of by Potiphar's wife, he didn't curse God. He didn't say, "What is going on here?" He just kept his testimony. And he endured, he embraced these troubled waters. When Jacob died, Joseph's father died, his brothers basically asked Joseph, "Hey, Joseph, since Dad's gone, please don't kill us." Remember, the brothers sold Joseph into slavery. And then when Jacob died, the brothers were afraid that Joseph was going to come by and kill all of them to get revenge because Dad was gone, and it wouldn't hurt his feelings anymore because he wasn't there. And then here's what Joseph's reactions, here's what his response was. Most of us know it, but we're going to read it again. In Genesis 50, chapter 50, verse 20, he said, "Ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to save much people alive." In other words, Joseph looked at him and said, No, I'm not going to kill you. See, you meant it for evil, yes, but God meant it all for good. God knew that there were going to be some people in here who needed to eat in a couple of years. And so he allowed me to come to Egypt. He allowed me to endure those things, yes, but so that he raised me up and so that, hey, you could have a meal. God saved you alive even by the evil that you did to me. Joseph had a great testimony. Sometimes you have to have an opponent to have victory. In fact, every time you have to have an opponent to have victory. We have an opponent. His name is Satan. His name is the devil. We have an opponent. Its name is the sin nature, the flesh. And sometimes we wrestle with those things. But hey, God has already given us the victory. He's already thrown the tree into the murky water of our sin. And he's already paid the penalty for it. Perhaps the suffering that you are going through today, Christian, is meant to save much people alive. Maybe God is fixing to get you up and get you gone into a land where you're going to save much people alive. We don't always know what God's going to do. In fact, a lot of times we don't always know what God's going to do. But we know that if in His perfect will, that He's got us in the palm of His hand, that we are not outside the circle of His blessing and protection, and that we are going to the land of Elim. We're going to go from Mara to Elim. We're going to go from Egypt to the Promised Land. We're going to get there. God wants to get us there. But there's some troubled waters we have to go through.